our undivided attention because she has a lot of words and a lot of magic to share. So let's give a huge, huge round of applause for Atieno.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for being present with me. My name is Atieno Nyar Kasagam, but some of you will know me as Winnie. I am the daughter of a man named Josta Onyango Imbuchi, who was born by the biggest freshwater lake in Africa. My mother also comes from the same region. This freshwater lake is the source of a lot of water systems that feed the regions that we know as Central and Eastern Africa. And I identify, however, in spite of being born in Nairobi, as a Detroit African because life is dynamic, and for a myriad of reasons that I'm still uncovering, Detroit is home, and Detroit is where I see my future. Detroit is where I have given birth to 3 African American and Detroit African children. Detroit is my Wakanda. Sijambo. I want to start by asking a core question for this talk. And the question is very simple. What is the point? What is the goal? What is the goal of movement work? What is the goal of education work? What is the goal of trying to energize you here today? For me, the goal is simple. I want good living. Good living for me, good living for those that I love, good living for those who are called African, good living for those who are not called African, good eating, joy, laughter, houses with roofs that are not leaking, no rats in the house, no mice, no ants, food. You don't have to scramble at the food pantry and experience the shaming that goes down. Better food than Aldi's, cheaper food than Whole Foods. What is the goal? I want a Detroit that feels like Nairobi and better than Nairobi, because somebody told me Detroit is one of the blackest cities in America, but I wondered why it feels and looks so white. So my journey into Detroit started really 5 years ago. I came here to give birth. I came here to give birth to a child that I just needed to have. I was a sophomore year student at Michigan State University, and I caught the baby fever, and I had no idea what that was going to be like. I didn't even calculate the task of breastfeeding. Would you believe that? I found out about that probably really the day of giving birth or something, like really understanding what I was doing. I moved to Detroit because I fell in love with a black man from Lakewood and Jefferson on the southeast side. And this brother was a very interesting brother. He's a brother that I feel epitomizes the most amazing things about Detroit to me. One, he knew that he was an African and no one could unseat him from that understanding. He knew about Africa. He knew so much. Matter of fact, he was my teacher. He invited me into music, to African music. I lost all my white friends. Freshman year, I started to hang out with black people. You know, it's complicated for us Africans. We used to have dates in the library, watching Malcolm X and Marcus Garvey. That's what we used to do for dates. And we'd spend our nights discussing political philosophy things, decolonization, freedom, Steve Biko. We believed we were the generation. We were the revolutionaries. We believed it. Do you know how much we believed it? It's almost painful. Because we learned about, and I wrote them down, the people on my heart right now. I definitely became Steve Biko in college. Black power, black beauty, young black intellectuals who are questioning their pathways, educated, quote, educated, and looking to unschool themselves. Thomas Sankara. It is now. I met Detroit at the most perfect stage of my life. And the first real place that I went to in Detroit was a gathering of folks who connect with the Newark, New Culture community and the Grace Lee Boggs communities. And I was a young mother with a young nursing baby. And one of the first things they said, the big conversation was telling us, yo, forget about these boring jobs. You need to do what you love. You need to fight for an alternative future. And the way they sold it to us, we believed it. So this brother from Detroit, this black, beautiful brother from Detroit, I met him as a freshman, and he was in MSU's agriculture program, and he can tell you more about his journey in that. But all I can say is that he caught the farming bug, and he decided to enroll in a gardening program in Lansing, sort of like community allotment gardening. And when he took up this plot, another opportunity arose in Florida for the summer, and he needed help on this property. And I had never gone to the farm, not once, and I would not have even gone. I was not interested at all. But I only went there because he needed somebody to do the minimum, which was water the plants. And that's all I went there for. I didn't want to be involved at all. And I was probably in my sophomore year. Sophomore year. So he had gone. Imagine this man, he plants his seeds, he has to dip, and I'm there just watering these plants. And let me just put it like this, by the end of that season, the garden was mine. The people around us in the community allotment garden farm thought I was the farmer at the spot. I would spend all my days there. I go to work, go to whatever summer had me doing in Lansing, I can't even remember, and go to the garden. And sometimes there was no water, we had to go to the water hole in the back. And my journey was that I saw the opportunity in that space of land that was not even bigger than this stage to grow black-eyed peas. And I grew black-eyed peas everywhere along the border of whatever he had planted. And then I started to slowly creep in, and I had a forest of black-eyed peas because that was the plant that I could access. That was a food, a delicacy that I was craving from home. And when I say black-eyed peas, I'm talking about the leaves of the black-eyed peas in particular. I'm not even a fan of the seeds. I don't like black-eyed peas prepared as beans. I like the vegetables, the leaves, and that is a delicacy where I'm from in East Africa. So gardening to me began off of him and then became my own way to access the food that I loved, that I missed, that I couldn't get anywhere, that I couldn't get at Kroger, I couldn't get at Maya. On occasion, I'll get some stuff from the Oriental market, but it would need some deep research because I had to find the Asian translations of different things, and it was a process. This has been years coming. And today, who am I? Who am I? So, for context, I have lived in Detroit now for 5 years in partnership with Zoe, who's born and raised in Detroit. And at the moment we have 2 homesteads and a possible 3rd opening up in Fitzgerald on the west side. And a homestead simply means a home with a farm attached directly next to it, so that the people who are living within the home experience the work of farming as a primary job and lifestyle, you know? And when I say this as a job or lifestyle, it doesn't necessarily mean that we make money directly from the produce, but it is, we leverage the whole experience of living, in our case, with chicken, goats, ducks, cats, dogs. What else we got, though? Anything miscellaneous? We live in a wonderful neighborhood that has a lot of land too, so we experience a very interesting ecosystem of pheasants. We experience so many beautiful wild birds, and we offer food and water, and we sculpture our land space to accommodate both the wild and the domestic. And the experience that we have on the east side of Detroit is an experience that is so otherworldly to me. I struggle to place this place within the space we call reality. You understand? Now this is where I vibe with the Wakanda vibes, because for me, Wakanda, as in the Black Panther film, was a projection of desire, of the desires of free African people of our time, the desires of a sovereign land, the desires of a sovereign polity, of beauty, of a powerful black, free, rooted, earthy aesthetic, the desires of access to wealth, the desire of power over oppressive forces. Wakanda is in Detroit to me because Wakanda has to be in Detroit to me. Because me, Atieno, Nyar, Kasagam, who has lived in Detroit for 5 years, and before that lived in East Lansing, Michigan for like 3.5 years, and before that lived in Johannesburg for 2 years, and before that lived in Kikuyu for 4 years, and before that lived in Nairobi for, how many years is left? 14 years. I cannot do the struggle anymore. I'm done. I am 28 years old, and I read about Steve Biko, and I read about Thomas Sankara, and I read about Jaramogi Odinga, and I read about Samora Machel, and I read about, who did you read about? Anybody read about anybody interesting? Anybody read about some real revolutionaries out here? I read about Malcolm X. I read about Harriet Tubman. I read about, who you read about? Y'all don't know anybody out here? Huh? Ya Santua. And I believe that shit. Excuse the French. It's real. Those were real women. Those were real men with problems like us, with bodies like us, with diabetes scares, with pregnancy, with miscarriage, menstrual cycles, annoying relatives, beefs with your parents. What problems do we have? Just throw them all. You know what? I'm 28. I've read the history, and I'm tired of slavery movies. I'm tired of historical movies. I'm tired of struggle movies. I'm tired of activism. I'm winning. And what the question is, are you ready to receive the win? Like, are you even ready? Okay, maybe you don't think you are the one to decide that you will be free. So maybe Baba Malik is the one to decide when he's supposed to ring the bell. If Baba Malik got on stage right now and rang the bell, are you ready? What are you gonna do? Are you gonna look like that though? You do not look like you're in Wakanda. Are you gonna be going to work? Where you're going to work tomorrow? I mean, what does the win look like for you? I feel that Detroit offered me and offers a lot of interesting young black folks in my family circle the space to create this new track. And this is the message and the offering that we have. This is the only offering that I have. It is that to us, individually and within our families and within our circle of friends, what you are seeing happening in this city is magic. There is a lot of us who are now calling ourselves Detroit Africans. We are choosing to reframe how we identify. We are choosing to say that when I show up like this, I'm not showing up because I'm a dancer. I'm not a poet. That's not why I look like this. I'm not an artist. You know, I deal with this every day, and I love it because I am who I am. I deal with this every day. I decided to make it a normal thing to dress up in the most radical African aesthetic. And I go on the bus, I go to Rosa Parks, I just live my life. I go try open bank accounts and get rejected. I go to Woodward Cashiers, I buy my sunglasses there. Hello, eight bucks from the sister. Yes. You know, I walk the streets, I check out what's happening. I walk with confidence. I listen to music on my phone. On a Tuesday, when I'm supposed to look like I'm going to work, no girl, I'm out here picking roses in front of the police station. The point is this. For me, I can no longer have a conversation about, I'm already there. Let me put it like that. I'm already there, and like, the question I want to know is like, what are we doing? Okay, now that we are free, what? That's where I am. That's the level of conversation I want. And I want to have conversations with people who have decided within themselves that they have resolved for themselves that they have to be free now, not tomorrow, not 50 years. They're not waiting for the next civil rights march. They're not waiting for, they don't need that shit anymore. They're not waiting for an announcement that we are protesting in a certain way for them. No. And you decide for yourself where you're able right now to find your freedom and exist in your full freedom and dignity, whatever that looks like. Sometimes it's real, like me. I have a leaking roof. That money still gotta come in because I don't want my roof to collapse, right? You can only patch and put the plastics so much. There are some very real financial struggles, and I have grown up. I'm 28. I have lived some things now. I can say that. But I'm also 28, and I'm also tired of waiting to tell the same story that my parents said. Because I used to ask them, Mom, where were you when 1994 Rwanda genocide happened? Because I was 4 years old. But what about you? Now I understand where she was and why she felt helpless and why she felt like, I just got too many problems, like what am I gonna do? I personally, just simply because we have access to so much of the experience and the history of people sacrificing, of people fighting in all these ways, I cannot do that again. But I can say this, I might not have the power or the resources to prevent a genocide in Burundi, to prevent something erupting, even in my own home country right now, by the way, Kenya. I stopped even reading the news because I could not take it anymore, because I feel powerless, okay? But this is what I have, and the issue about who gives me the right to belong is an issue I have been grappling with for years in this city. Because to even stand here in front of you, who am I, a foreigner, an African immigrant who does not have the same experience of blackness as an African American, who am I to stand here? And you know what? This is the only answer I got. This is the only answer I got. And then I'll go to this real quick. Somebody tell me about time. I'm not too sure. It's taken me a while. I needed to answer some of these questions. You know, when I came to America, I was coming from this school called the African Leadership Academy. It was a crazy school. It was a crazy school because they got students from all over the continent to drop out of high school, like me. I dropped out of high school, never finished. And then I failed in that school, but it's all good. I made it here. But listen, they took us to this school in South Africa and paid for our tuition, gave us pocket money, gave us flights back home at the end of the semester, boarding school. And these folks were telling us that, you know what? Desmond Tutu, Nelson Mandela, Winnie, Graça Machel, Patrice Lumumba, Jomo Kenyatta, Kwame Nkrumah, Haile Selassie, all these folks were pals, man. These folks knew each other. This dude from Cuba, what's this guy's name? Castro. What about Che Guevara? Where's he from? Cuba? Bolivia? Argentina? Wherever he's from, folks were pals. This revolution work happens like that. People know each other. You're not waiting for somebody miscellaneous celebrity activist to fly into Detroit to ring the bell. We ring the bell. We ring our own personal bell. We ring the bell for our family to say, hey, no, it's ended right there. We ring the bell for our hood and we say, like, our block, we say, like, nobody's coming to buy any more land here. Because you know what, they might have the law or the money, but we are here physically. And if we need to put our bodies here, so be it. If it is Facebook Live, if it is Instagram Live, if it is YouTube that we need, we'll do everything that we can, but we will put our fight where our bodies are, where our homes are, where we nest. And land, for me and for a lot of the people in the community, has compelled us to be like that. Because you have more incentive to defend a place where you have more power. You have more incentive to defend a place where you always are, and you have more capacity. If some random folks are coming to explore and try buy up homes, we'll see them. We'll know it even before they put in the stuff in the Detroit Land Bank thing. Because they come and see, they drive by, and we see them and we speak to them right there. You know, and we know what to do. All right. So the film Side Lots emerged from me coming out of this stage as a stay-at-home mother and as a partner to a farmer who is more interested in the botanical, the scientific, the very productive. We need everybody, right? We need everybody on team. For me, my entry into farming was never scientific. It was me needing maternal nourishment. And for me, that came through the food that I could only grow. And still, for me, the joy of the food is in the eating and in the sharing. So it started to mushroom into various new career paths that were not the traditional farmer. And why it's important for me now to challenge the language of farming, to challenge the language of agriculture, and to invite us to see the culture in agriculture is because the land is the most important asset that we have to have success in revolution ASAP. Detroit has the land. Detroit has liberated land the size of Manhattan. I am also an intellectual. I wear all these hats. We went to school for this stuff. We can go I can go to Harvard and fight and debate these you know, people like to come for community activists who center indigeneity, who center civil rights, who center human rights, as if we do not have understanding about economics, understanding about data, statistics, numbers. We know all that stuff. We can use it. Detroit has so much land, and the best part is that the land is adjacent to homes. It is not, we have so much land within very, very close proximity to us, and that's the best land to take power from. To take power with, you know, all the language. Forgive me, I'm like working on so many levels. I can't keep it all clean and equitable, and you know. yeah. And how is land power? And how is land culture? All right, I want to shout out Harriet Tubman again. I have a list. You know why? I'm discovering folks. I'm trying to look for interesting places of black power in Detroit, and I found a nice spot right there by the river, looking over Canada, and I left my house keys right there in Harriet's purse, and I never got them back, but that's another story. Wangari Maathai. Wangari Maathai is a Kenyan African woman, Nobel Peace Prize laureate, environmentalist. Her thing was plant trees. I never liked her much because I thought it was just a celebrity thing, until of course I grew up and started to have more understanding. What is the land? And I'm going to connect back. Land is the soil. Land is grass. Land is this. What tree is this? Do you know what tree is this? This is? It's not a maple. It's an oak. This oak tree is land. The corn is land. All these flowers here are land. This here, wood, is land. The materials on this stage are made from byproducts of the earth, whether plants, whether minerals, rocks, metals, even plastic is an extract of petroleum, you know what I'm saying? What is land? Land is matter. Land is literally everything. Land is human beings, land is the birds, amphibians, domestic and wild animals. Land is the sun. Land is the moon. Land is mushrooms. Land is everything. Why the land? Where you gonna be with your Wakanda? You gonna be on Earth? Where's your Wakanda gonna be? Or are you not gonna be alive? Because I'm working with people who are gonna be alive for Wakanda. Where's your Wakanda gonna be? You going to Mars, or you gonna be dead? You already gave up. If you gave up, okay, maybe we're talking to your children. Where's your Wakanda gonna be? Is it gonna be in Detroit? Are you gonna live out your last years in freedom, or are you gonna still be on the hamster wheel? I'm asking you serious questions. You know, I'm 28 and I'm also asking these questions. And what is that gonna look like? What will Monday look like when you're free? Are you free? When did abolition happen in America? Was it 1865 or something? Never? Abolition didn't happen?
No.
So who's gonna abolish if it's not us? You waiting for somebody else? I don't know. Wangari Maathai's thing was that let's plant trees because trees are water. Trees, dense foresty ecosystems are often the source, the catchment areas for water, for fresh, clean drinking water. Somebody knows about fresh, clean drinking water? Because I don't drink fresh, healthy water personally from my faucet in Detroit. I don't, and most of us probably don't either. And we know about the schools right now in Detroit. And I'm wondering, a city like Detroit, in the Great Lakes, what about a city like Nairobi, where it's even worse, where our only river is polluted? What type of water are we drinking there? Urban farming for me is just an introduction to the land. For some people, access to land in Detroit began as an opportunity to grow collard greens, to grow black-eyed peas like me, to grow tomatoes, to grow salad greens for yourself, to keep some chickens for some eggs. And then what? What happened? What happens a few years later? Revolution happens. Ask the farmers around you. Go visit their homes and go inside their homes. Look at how they're raising their children. Look at how many of them have pulled their children out of school. Look at how farmers in the city, black and even non-black, yeah? People are pushing the frameworks of what living in America and in a city like Detroit is supposed to look like. But the interesting and most important part is that it is the farming work, the land, the access to land that most of us either own or could potentially own because we are in immediate proximity and we are often in situations where it's not contested, and we often have ownership of the homes adjacent to the land, and therefore we can literally protect this land. Most of these people have transformed into very country-like people, and I think that's the best type of people to be. And I have like a minute. In conclusion, I want to kick it back to where, for me, the fire keeps roaring. So for purposes of our film, my partner, our crew, we went on a very powerful journey to Alabama, to Nishberg, Alabama, to the ancestral land of Zoe's mom. It was a very, very powerful experience, and I'll invite you to watch this film to explore this. But what essentially happened is that we found out and really saw with our eyes and walked upon this land that Mama Flora and Baba Anderson Starworth had saved for their family by putting it into contract that their land could not be sold. Since they I don't know, what's the word? They found an emancipation, right? 200 acres. And then a little bit of a family dispute. It's like now 120, 140. But it was a lot of land, a natural spring. And